before we actually jump into the topic today, I'd love for you to just sort of share maybe some key moments of your journey and particularly key in on the backstory of how you discovered the concept that people give and receive love differently.
Yeah.
Which ultimately led to the 5 love languages.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I have worked on the same church staff for 50 years, and marriage and family counseling has been a major part of my ministry. Never forget, a number of years ago, when it dawned on me that what makes one person feel loved doesn't make another person feel loved. A couple came into my office. I found out later they'd been married to each other for 30 years. And the wife said, "Dr. Chapman, the real problem is this. I just don't feel any love coming from him. We're cordial. We don't argue, but we're like roommates living in the same house. He does his thing. I do my thing. There's nothing really going on between us, and I just feel empty inside." I looked at her husband, and he said, "I don't understand her. I do everything I can to show her that I love her. And she sits there and tells you what she's been telling me. She doesn't feel love." He said, "I don't know what else I can do." And I said, "Well, what do you do to show your love to her?" He said, "Well, I get home from work before she does. I start the evening meal. Sometimes I have it ready when she gets home. If not, she'll help me. After dinner, I wash dishes every night. On Thursday, I vacuum the floors. On Saturday, I wash the car, I mow the grass, I help her with the laundry," and he went on. And Brian, I was beginning to ask myself, what does this woman do? It sounded to me like he was doing everything. And he said, "I do all of that." And she says she doesn't feel loved. He said, "I don't know what else I can do." Look back at her, and she started crying. And she said, "He's right. He's a hard-working man. But we don't ever talk. We haven't talked in 20 years. He's always mowing the grass, washing the dishes, vacuuming the floors." And I realized here was a sincere husband who was doing what he thought was love. He loved her, and he was expressing it by doing things for her. And a woman who didn't get it emotionally. And after that experience, I had similar stories over and over in my office. And I knew there had to be a pattern to what I was hearing, but I had no idea what it was. So eventually I took time to sit down and read several years of notes that I made when I was counseling and asked myself the question, when someone said, "I feel like my spouse doesn't love me," what did they want? What were they complaining about? And their answers fell into 5 categories. And I later called them the 5 love languages. And I started using that in my counseling. If you want her to feel loved, you've got to learn to express your love in her language. If you want him to feel loved, you've got to learn his love language. And I would help couples discover their love language, challenge them to go home and try it. And sometimes they would come back very shortly and say, "Gary, this is changing everything. I mean, the whole climate's different now between us." And then I started teaching in small classes in our church, and the same thing would happen. It was probably 5 years later that I thought, if I could put this concept in a book and write it in the language of the common person, leave out psychological terms and even theological terms that people wouldn't understand, maybe I could help a lot of couples that I would never have time to see in my office. So that's what happened on the birth and life of the 5 love languages.
Yeah, and what a tremendous impact that it has made. I know in my own home, for most of my 23 years of marriage, we've talked about the fact that my love language is acts of service. My wife's love language is quality time. Now, I would have to say that quality time is one of the harder ones, in my opinion, to actually accomplish, especially for a productivity-driven person like me. But it was so important that I understood that about my spouse. What is your love language?
Mine is words of affirmation. My wife is acts of service. I do wash dishes, vacuum floors, take out trash, clean toilets, and she tells me I'm the greatest husband in the world.
Well, I think you did a tremendous job, by the way, of writing this book.
Well, thank you.
Which, it is important even outside of marriage, with just our daily interactions with people, knowing that, if I led you in some capacity and in church, for instance, to know that your love language is words of affirmation. That's really a critical thing for me as a leader to know as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In all human relationships. That's why, a few years ago, I teamed up with Dr. Paul White and wrote the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. Same 5 languages, but in the workplace we call it appreciation rather than love. But it's the same emotional need. It's that need to feel valued. They care about me and my well-being. I'm not just a cog in the machine at this company. Powerful difference it makes in the work climate when people understand and practice this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a new copy of it, by the way.
Oh, yes. All right.
It's been a long time since I've read it, and I do intend on reading it again and refreshing myself of it again because it's such a practical tool, and I've recommended it so many times. But over 20 million copies sold, which has made your work part of the fabric of homes across the world. What's it like to know that you've had such a global impact on relationships and families?
Well, it's very humbling because I realize I could not have made this happen. It's a God thing. What really surprised me is that it went to other cultures. Over 50 languages have published it, and in many of those languages, it is their bestseller. And that really surprised me because my academic background, before I studied counseling and theology, I did an undergrad and later a master's degree in cultural anthropology, studying other cultures and how they're organized. So when the publisher came to me and said they want to buy the rights to publish this in Spanish, I said, I don't know if this works in Spanish. I discovered this in Middle America, They said, well, they've read the book and they want to publish it. I said, okay, let's go. They did. It became their bestseller. And then others, just all over the world. So it's been so encouraging just to know that God would take this simple concept and, touch literally millions of couples all over the world and help them learn how to communicate love to each other in a meaningful way that meets that deep emotional need that we have to feel loved.
Absolutely. So, this has been many years. What was the year that you originally published it?
1992. So it's been out, 24, 30, I'm not good at math, 32 years.
Yeah, 32 or 33 years. Yeah. So in all of those years of teaching it and, in your dealings with people with counseling, are there any common misunderstandings about the 5 love languages that you wish people understood better? Maybe something that you addressed in a later book or something?
Yeah, the common thing that's most understood, and I understand why, is that people read it and they're thinking about themselves and getting their own need met. And they're saying, my spouse is not speaking my language. They don't love me. And so they're thinking totally in terms of themselves. And I understand it because we are all self-centered. Right. And that tends to lead us to be selfish. And the selfish attitude is, I'm in this relationship for what I can get out of it. If you're not going to meet my needs, then I'm out of here. And so I think that's the most common misunderstanding or misapplication of the concept, rather than thinking in terms of, oh man, here's a tool that's going to help me effectively communicate my love to my spouse. And because love, that's the attitude of love. I want to enrich your life. I want to do what I can to help you become the person you believe God wants you to be. And so I think that's the most common misunderstanding of the love languages.